Greetings folks and welcome to the Electromaker podcast. This is your audio roundup of all things Maker and embedded and lovely, although this exists as a show on YouTube as well, and you can find a link to it in the show notes. This week we'll be talking about the Nordic NRF 7002EK once again, and I did talk about it just a couple of weeks ago, but now we have a fully fledged product of the week and giveaway about it. If you're not familiar, this is a Wi-Fi 6 expansion kit that you can add. It's an Arduino shield essentially, but you can add Wi-Fi 6 to pretty much anything, including all of Nordic's development kits, but again, anything that takes an Arduino shield. We'll also be talking about a Banana Pi R4 router, which is an absurdly powerful single-board computer designed to work as a router. Changes to the Arduino cloud, and looking at a fantastic project, it's a tutorial project on the Electromaker website covering MQTT on the Raspberry Pi from numerous angles. As always, the best way to support this podcast is by shopping at the Electromaker store. If you're beginning to get your Christmas presents together, take a look at electromaker.io/shop. And with all of that to get through in the show this week, I think we should probably just get on with it. We're going to start this week's show by taking a very quick look at a blog from Arduino talking about the Arduino cloud. Now, we're actually slightly behind on this. They announced this a couple of weeks ago, and I really wanted to talk about it at the time, but I just did not have the time. But Arduino's IoT cloud, which is just called the Arduino Cloud, is something that has really matured to the point that it's something that I think is not as well known as it should be, which is weird considering that Arduino are one of the biggest hobby MCU dev kit manufacturers in the world. Now, I'm not going to exhaustively go through all of the different changes because that would be completely redundant. Arduino have actually come up with a fantastic video on this blog post here, which goes through absolutely everything that has changed in just 1 minute and 45 seconds. And of course, the blog post goes through a bunch of these things as well. But just in short, my personal experience with Arduino Cloud when it first appeared was that it was a nice idea, but it was a little maybe under-featured. Some of the features that were there weren't particularly easy to find. That has all completely changed. I'm not going to go through it here in this video because I feel like it would be a waste of everyone's time. But needless to say, I did plug in an Arduino board that I have here. I think this is the ESP32 Nano variant, which you can just about see me waving here, just to kind of mess around with it. And the way that it works and the layout of the cloud now is so intuitive that you could just, without really thinking, just get going, and before you know what you're doing, you've got a working IoT app with an app that works on your phone with it, which is not something that was easy to do even a short time ago. But yes, as I've said, I would recommend heading to the blog post because it covers everything you need to know, as you would expect an announcement blog post to. And this video really is great. It's a whistle-stop tour of all of the new features. But from my perspective, just a couple of small things, like in this part of the video, when he goes to, this is just such a small thing. You go into a project here, right? And you have all of the cloud variables for the project here. But if you want to go back into the menu and find something else, before you'd have to go all the way back to the first front page and then go back to something else, they now overlay the menu on the side. It's just such a small thing, but it's such a nice quality of life feature. Template projects are something that did exist before, but they weren't easy to access. Now they're all just there in the Arduino cloud. And if you open a template project, that gives you a template for an app, and it gives you a template for how that app will work. And so I think the template project they mentioned here is one that just blinks an LED. But that doesn't matter. You have a button inside the app that shows the state of the LED, and then you have your actual board attached to your computer, and the LED turns on and off when you press the button in the app. This is the code example, but on a very, very basic level that will get people into IoT. And Arduino Cloud, like most cloud services, is pretty much free to anyone who needs to use it for a hobby purpose, because until you start scaling things up, it doesn't cost you anything. Anyway, I said I wasn't going to spend too much time on this because they've done it far better, and then I waffled about it for a little while. I will leave a link to this blog post in the description of this video. Now, moving on to Banana Pi, and as the name suggests, you would be right to think of them as a Raspberry Pi clone company, and that was true, at least at first. One of the many companies that were putting out boards that were supposed to rival the Raspberry Pi, but they have branched out to do a lot of quite interesting things. And much like the Orange Pi Zero is its own form factor from Orange Pi, that is a small form factor Linux development board that isn't like the Pi Zero, the Banana Pi BPIR4 looks, well, about as different to a Raspberry Pi as you could imagine. And if the huge amount of Ethernet ports and these two SFP ports here haven't given it away yet, this is a router board. But it's a router board that has pretty much every bell and every whistle that you would want. Now, as always, what with this being a CNX software article, it goes into a huge amount of detail. CNX is one of the best news sites for anything embedded. If you're not already familiar with it, it's definitely worth one having bookmarked. They do also have a Patreon, by the way, if it's something you want to support. Now, let's start with the price, actually. You can get one of these on AliExpress for 115 euros. I'm not sure what that is in dollars. Now, I don't know if that's a Black Friday deal. As you can see, it's usually 144 euros, or whether there's just a permanent 20% discount. But you're also seeing that right now, this is not something that is available for me to buy in Germany, at least. I'm wondering when it's going to come back in stock. Anyway, I thought I'd get that out of the way straight away. It's too interesting of a thing not to talk about, but it is unfortunately, at the time of recording this, unobtainium. But let's look at some of the specs. So I'm going to take a very high level look at the stats of the specifications for it, partially because there's some stuff when it comes to networking that I just straight up don't understand. I've never really looked into. I know the names of things, but I don't really know how they work. But yeah, so obviously you have the 4 Ethernet ports here, and as it says here, there's 4 gigabit Ethernet RJ45 ports here, 1 WAN and 3 LAN, and then the 2 SFP cages. And I don't know too much about this. I do know that these can be general purpose connectivity cages. So for example, it says you can have 2 10 gigabit Ethernet SFP cages, but there's an option for one 10 gigabit Ethernet SFP cage and one 2.5 gigabit Ethernet physical layer. And again, I don't know anything about physical layer Ethernet. I just know that it's there. This back here is super interesting. There's an M2 slot for a 5G modem and 3 separate micro SIM card slots. So you can have a variety of different mobile networks attached to this router. And that's not all. On the other side of it as well, there's an M2 slot for an SSD and dual micro PCIe slots too. So this is for Wi-Fi NIC. But I'm thinking if you look here, these are both taken up by a Wi-Fi 7 card. And that's right, this board features Wi-Fi 7. I haven't even understood Wi-Fi 6 fully yet, and now we have Wi-Fi 7. Again, this is something that I'd love to go into and discover what all of the details and the differences will be when Wi-Fi 7 is something that is widely adopted. However, it is worth noting that, again, this being CNX software, they link out to an article that covers the news about what Wi-Fi 7 will do. So if you are interested in more reading, it's absolutely worth looking at. And it's funny as well, because I just mentioned I don't really understand Wi-Fi 6 fully yet. And this article starts with, I still don't own a Wi-Fi 6 router, but MediaTek has already started to demonstrate Wi-Fi 7. Anyway, if you are interested in finding out more about this, there'll be a link to it in the description of the video. And you can find the link to AliExpress here in the article as well. But as I mentioned at the start, unfortunately, it is something that is not able to buy right now. I'm sure it will come back into stock. There's a couple of other things I haven't even mentioned about this. This here is an optional place to add a power over Ethernet module or something like that, if I remember correctly. And of course, there's GPIOs here and a bunch of other things I haven't even mentioned. But if this is the kind of thing that you're interested in, the CNX software article has you covered. Just a very quick note that if you are not already subscribed to the Electromaker YouTube channel, it would mean a lot to us if you could. As you see, our Electromaker YouTube channel has just had a rather nice makeover, and it does look quite nice now, doesn't it? Once you have subscribed to the channel, if you drop this menu down, or click this drop-down menu, you can select all notifications, and what this will do is give you notifications just here inside YouTube. So up here you will see the notifications I have on this channel are just things from the Electromaker Show and things like our Product of the Week series. The final thing that you can do is whichever one of these videos you happen to be watching, if you could click the like button underneath it, that would help us too. All of these things are not just to make us feel better about ourselves, although of course they do, but they do let YouTube know that you do like it, and it makes it far more likely that they will share it with other people. As you can see, we are rapidly approaching 20,000 subscribers, which is incredibly exciting given that it feels like just a few weeks ago I was celebrating the 10,000 subscriber mark. And so yes, the fact that more and more people are starting to find the show and enjoy it means a lot. So those 3 things you can do are free. Thank you very, very much. Now we're going to move on to the Nordic NRF 7002 evaluation kit, which is something I talked about just a couple of weeks ago on this show, but since then our in-house gadget guru Robin has been very, very busy, and it is now a fully fledged product of the week. So, as always, if you'd like to get the full rundown of what this thing is and why you might want to get one, Robin is in a very good position to tell you that he is actually an engineer rather than an enthusiast in an attic like myself. But I was kind of excited to have this one released just from a very silly personal reason, because when we went to Embedded World last year, Nordic had this thing sitting on top of one of their NRF 5340 development kits, and said, yeah, this is a secret thing. Shh, you can film it, but don't tell anyone about it. But it was, very obviously an Arduino shield that adds Wi-Fi 6 to things, which is cool to see. And there's a reason why Nordic have taken their time before they've moved into having a Wi-Fi IC or a Wi-Fi chip. I mean, this is just a companion chip. You need to have a host MCU to run it with. But again, that's why the Arduino shield is so useful. Many things have Arduino shield compatibility. But the reason it took so long for them to put out a Wi-Fi IC is that, frankly, Wi-Fi is terrible when it comes to power usage. It's so much higher than Bluetooth Low Energy and other ways of communicating, and it wasn't until Wi-Fi 6 that the standard got to a point where Nordic thought they could actually get something out which was low power enough to fit with the rest of their portfolio. At least that's my take on it. No one from Nordic has said that to me. This is just, again, enthusiastic hot takes from an attic. But what with all the things that Wi-Fi 6 brings, like, for example, target wait time, which means that things can wake up and go to sleep much faster. They don't need to spend ages powering up and powering down when they're sending data packets. And they also support things like Wi-Fi 6 Spatial Stream, which sends several things simultaneously over different bands in the network or something like that. We're going way above my technical grade here, which again is why I wish I had the time to research all of this and do an enthusiastic hobbyist explains series. Maybe one day that will happen. But yes, there's... In short, if you want to add Wi-Fi 6 to your project, this is probably one of the best ways that you can do it, and it doesn't cost a huge amount either. It's $20 for the shield, which is not that much at all. But yes, don't take my word for it. Robin is definitely the person you want to listen to talk about this, and you can find a link to this article and this video in the description of the video that you're watching right now. But this is a Product of the Week video, so you've probably worked out where this is going. Yes, a Product of the Week wouldn't be a Product of the Week if we didn't give it away to one of our viewers. So if you would like to win a Nordic Semiconductor Wi-Fi 6 Arduino Shield, the NRF 7002EK, which of course can work with anything that is Arduino Shield compatible, all you need to do is be a subscriber to our YouTube channel. You should also leave a comment telling us what you would do if you win it, and the hashtag NRF 7002EK. And every week we gather all of those hashtagged competition entries together, filter them to make sure that there aren't multiple entries, so there's no point in entering multiple times, and we choose a winner at random, which we will be announcing on next week's show. We're moving on now to funding website things, which is the part of the show that we talk about things on funding websites, weirdly enough. And we're starting on Crowd Supply, which is not dissimilar to Kickstarter, but just for awesome hardware projects. And at the time of me recording this, they're having a Black Friday sale, the first of its kind and perhaps the last. I'm not sure if that'll still be the case when this show goes live. I'm recording some elements of it early because I will be out of the country when this show goes live. But we are talking now about the unreleased, and so we don't know what the price will be, Robo Uno Plus. Now, as it says, this is a next-generation drop-in replacement for the Arduino Uno R3. And the thing that makes the Uno Plus interesting, as far as I'm concerned, is not just all the extra bells and whistles they've added to it, it's the fact that it's a very education-focused board, and it comes from that. In fact, as it says here, the design of the Robo Uno Plus grew out of the feedback from 5 years of workshops they've given to educators and students. And that shows immediately from one thing you'll notice straight away, is that the silkscreen, the PCB, has labels of what absolutely everything is, from the reset button through to here the NeoPixels here, and by the way, it has NeoPixels, it has 3 RGB LEDs on it. It also has a buzzer and a bunch of user buttons here. This is really nice because this shows where a little OLED screen could connect onto it, showing the footprint of it as well if you wanted to use it with an OLED screen. But at the end of the day, ultimately, this is the same kind of board as the original Arduinos, with the ATmega 328P chip in it that many people started with and then later went on to program by getting the datasheet through, because again, it's a fairly easy microcontroller to learn and the datasheet is not that dense. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. In short, this is very similar to the Arduino Uno. One of the differences is it now just has a USB Type-C port. So it doesn't have the barrel jack input, but a lot of people will be quite happy that you can run it via USB-C. It's one of the things that a lot of people have wanted for most development boards for quite a while. As previously mentioned, it also has a few extra bits to it. So it has a buzzer, it has 4 user buttons, 3 RGB LEDs, an OLED display connector, and a Stemma QT/Quick JST connector on the bottom just here, along with double rows of all the pins here as well. And yeah, it just seems like a really nice thing. I'm really interested in these switches, by the way. I saw them and I immediately thought, are they hardware switches for turning off the LEDs and turning off the buzzer? Because if they are, that is, again, a really nice thing. Not only is it something that can maybe save a bit of power, but if you're learning for the first time and these things are tied to pins that are already inside the board, that can be very confusing to not use certain pins because they're already used for something else, or to have to do some internal work. But knowing you can just turn them off and it just turns into a regular Uno is just really nice to me. Anyway, we're going to come back to this one later because, again, this is a pre-launch project and there is no price for it quite yet. But I can definitely see this being something that both educators and learners would be interested in, and I just love the idea. Something that takes something that already exists but makes it so much better and is clearly aimed to help people learn is something that I find definitely worth looking at, and we'll come back to this one when the project goes live. Finally, on this week's show, I want to point you in the direction of a trio of tutorials, but they all kind of amalgamate into one, that are on the Electromaker Project Hub. And these are by Mahmoud Schiller, who has been really working for quite some time to come up with an amazing portfolio of tutorials, all of which cover various different things to do with the Raspberry Pi Pico, ESP32 and the Raspberry Pi, and various things that you can do with them. From I think I talked about his MongoDB and Raspberry Pi Pico tutorial either on the Electromaker Show or maybe I just wrote something about it. But yeah, he's really been coming up with some wonderful things. This specifically is a project to do with the Raspberry Pi and MQTT. It's a 3-part project, but like I say, it all sort of amalgamates into one, because you start by learning how to turn your Raspberry Pi into a broker, essentially, by using Mosquito. You can send commands via MQTT, and this particular first part of the project shows you how to set up MQTT on the Raspberry Pi, how to use Python in order to send and receive messages, both from the Raspberry Pi and the host computer. So it's very custom from scratch MQTT, although you're not actually creating your own broker from scratch in code. You're using Mosquito, which is a very well-known and old broker. It is the very same broker that I used on the Raspberry Pi 2 back in the day. But that is not all that this project does. So like I said, it's sort of a 3-part project, and if you look actually on his page here, these top 3 projects fit together, because the first one is setting up Mosquito on the Raspberry Pi, and the second one is using Mosquito and Node.js to send things to an Amazon Web Services S3 bucket, which is cloud storage on Amazon, and you get a certain amount of it for free, so it's a good choice, because obviously Amazon Web Services is well known. So part 2 of the project incorporates this, but it is also a separate tutorial. One of the things I really like about all of Mahmoud's projects is that they're all written out here, but they're also all in video format as well, and he'll talk you through every step of it as you go, so you can watch him do it. But if you want to copy the commands into your terminal or whatever, you can just head through to each one of these tutorials and do that. And so this one is how to install the MQTT broker onto the Pi and how to do some Python programming to test it. And then the next one takes things way further. So as well as going over the initial first part and the Amazon Web Services part, the second part of this project works with a local node server. So local as in on your host computer, your PC or your Mac or whatever, in order to talk to the broker and get the broker to do something. So the broker in this case is the Raspberry Pi, and the Raspberry Pi has a camera attached to it. And this is setting up a simple JSON server that will ask the Raspberry Pi camera to capture an image and send it to the cloud. And it's doing it using a simple GET request. So the GET request here is take photo, and it will send that through to it will send that as a request through to the Raspberry Pi, which is working as the broker. And there is a demonstration of it working in this video as well. And as before, if you're interested in finding out more about it, there's a written tutorial here too. I know I kind of whipped through that quite quickly because there's a lot here, but Mahmoud's been putting out a huge amount of tutorial material, and I do think it's just worth looking into. He's covered everything from the very basics of things to things that are a little more complex like this, and yet he's still covering it at such a level that is easy to understand. He's not going into any one thing in any massive amount of detail. He's showing you functional examples that you could then build upon. Now, of course, you can go much deeper into almost any aspect of this, but I love the fact that this is just several high-level ideas covered in one set of tutorials. And as mentioned before, if you look on the part 2 of this, you get all of these actually in one place. But again, you can head to Mahmoud's user space here on the Electromaker Projects Hub to find this, along with a lot more tutorial materials, and that's all going to be linked in the description of this video. That was our show for this week. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for all of your continued support. And as always, I'd love to hear what you think of anything we talk about on the Electromaker Show. You can get to me via ian@electromaker.io if you'd like to email me, or join our Discord server. Anything that's posted in there will be seen by me and other members of the Electromaker team. But for now, I hope you're having a fun, safe and creative week, and I will chat to you very, very soon.